I lost my daughter, but my little son still talks to his sister in his sleep. He says that she is watching over him from the sky and drawing new stories with chalk among the stars. My name is Elaine. I'm not here for sympathy. I'm here because I refuse to let the truth stay buried. My daughter Sophie was 12 years old. Bright, artistic, full of dreams bigger than our little town. She loved sketching fantasy characters, watching animated shows, and telling her little brother stories before bed. Last fall, she left our house around 8:30 p.m. after visiting her grandmother. Just for 20 minutes, she said. Everyone's out tonight. She smiled, gave her grandma a quick hug, and walked off into the evening. That was the last time we saw her. When she didn't come home, we called her. Then we searched the neighborhood. Then we called the police. By morning, they found her. And nothing was ever the same again. Authorities told us it was likely an act of self-harm. That she had chosen it. That there were no signs of anyone else involved. But there were things that didn't make sense. Her backpack wasn't with her. Her shoes were found apart from where she was. She had just bought new clothes for school. She had plans. She'd even drawn flowers on her cheeks that evening, her lucky look, she called it. None of it felt right. Not to me. Not to anyone who knew her. Months went by. No charges. No answers. Just silence. Until I met someone at a local event, a woman who claimed she could feel what others tried to bury. I don't know what I expected when I gave her Sophie's photo. But I didn't expect her to gasp and say, she didn't pass there. She was moved. My knees buckled. Because that was the first thing I'd suspected too, but no one would listen. That was the moment I realized if I wanted answers, I'd have to dig deeper. Not as a mother, but as a witness to something no one wanted to see. When I look back, there were moments that should have told me something wasn't right. Little shifts in Sophie's behavior. Nothing loud. Nothing dramatic. But like a song slowly losing its melody, her light began to flicker in small, subtle ways. She was still the same loving sister, the same daydreaming artist who'd tape drawings to the fridge and name her characters after planets. But some nights I'd find her staring out the window, whispering to herself in a language she was teaching herself. Mandarin, I think. She wanted to study animation overseas one day. She said Japan first, then China. I smiled. Encouraged her. But the night before. That night I still replay in my head over and over again. She had drawn a tiny flower on her cheek. Something about it unsettled me. Not because it was unusual, she did that sort of thing all the time, but because this one wasn't joyful. It was quiet. Almost ceremonial. I can't explain it. She'd also stopped talking as much about her weekends with her dad. They had joint custody and Sophie loved him dearly. But after his new relationship started, she grew more reserved. She never complained. But one time I overheard her tell her little brother, sometimes people only love you when it's convenient. That wasn't something a child just said. And yet I didn't ask. I told myself not to push her. I told myself she was just growing up. Hormones. Middle school stress. Preteen mood swings. I should have asked. The evening she disappeared, she'd spent hours with my mother, her grandma. They baked cookies together. Played with the dog. She laughed. She even said she had to get ready for something. It's important, she said. They're waiting. Who? Grandma asked. Sophie smiled and shrugged. We thought she was being silly. She always had a big imagination. Then that photo. The one she took in front of the mirror. Wearing the outfit we had bought just 2 days before, new sneakers, a pale hoodie, the jeans she insisted were exactly right for 7th grade. She had drawn flowers up one arm and stars along her temple. That was Sophie. Always trying to turn her skin into a story. She texted a friend around 8:37 p.m. Be there soon, she wrote. No one knows what happened after that. When we handed her phone over to the police, they said they'd look into it. But weeks passed and nothing. No fingerprints. No messages out of the ordinary. Just silence. It was as if her last hour had been scrubbed away. I clung to her artwork. Her journals. Scraps of paper with doodles of magical girls and animal sidekicks. Some of them had names I didn't recognize, like Mr. Red Car or Mirror Friend. She'd drawn one picture over and over again, a shadowy figure, always behind a little girl. No face. Just a wide smile. The figure had something in its hands, something long and straight. A stick? A cane? I don't know. Was it just fiction? Or was she trying to tell me something? That's what I asked the woman from the fair, the one who held Sophie's photo and looked like she'd just seen a ghost. She told me to trust my instincts. That Sophie had been trying to speak long before that night. That the symbols she drew weren't just for fun, they were expressions of what she couldn't say out loud. She was scared, the woman told me. But not of the dark. Of someone in the light. It sent a chill down my spine. I asked her what to do. She said, ask the people closest to her one simple question. Did you ever see her afraid, even when she smiled? I did. And I never asked why. I didn't sleep for weeks after that conversation at the fair. The woman's words kept looping in my mind. Someone in the light. Not the dark. Not a stranger hiding in an alley. But someone in plain sight. Someone who could be near us. Someone we knew. It terrified me in a new way. I started digging through Sophie's things. Not obsessively, just intentionally. Her drawers, her sketchbooks, the small memory box she kept under her bed. I didn't even know she had a memory box. Inside were ticket stubs, dried flowers, old birthday cards, and dozens of folded notes. Not school notes, private ones. Most were addressed to herself. Tiny affirmations written in colorful markers. You're still here. He doesn't get to decide who you are. I'm not scared today. Some made me feel proud. She was building strength. But others felt like whispers from someone standing on the edge. And then, tucked between two drawings, I found a folded piece of paper. It was printed, not handwritten. A schedule. A list of after-school meetups organized by the local youth center. But something was odd. Next to certain dates, Sophie had scribbled symbols. A triangle. A star. A red circle. Only those three. I wouldn't have thought anything of it, except that one of the red circles was drawn around the date she went missing. There was a name too. Alex. It didn't say much, just Alex RC. I didn't know any Alex. But Sophie did. I remembered a day, maybe 3 months earlier, when she came home unusually quiet. She sat at the kitchen table with her sketchpad, barely eating. When I asked what was wrong, she said, someone at the center made me feel weird. I pressed gently. She just shrugged it off. Now I wondered if that was the first time she felt unsafe. I took the list and went to the youth center myself. The woman at the front desk remembered Sophie. She was bright, she said. Always helpful. Kids liked her. I asked her about the name. Alex RC, she said. Oh, Alex runs our community shuttle sometimes. He's not staff, but he volunteers with transportation. He's got a red car. Real friendly guy. The kids love him. My stomach dropped. Does he still work here? She hesitated. Not lately. Took some time off. I didn't say anything else. I just smiled politely and left. In the parking lot, I couldn't breathe. Sophie had drawn someone again and again with a red car. She called him Mr. Red Car in one of her comics. He was always smiling, always holding something behind his back. I hadn't realized how literal that might have been. When I got home, I went back to her drawings. Mr. Red Car was always behind the little girl. Never next to her. Never facing her. Just there in the background, looming. In one sketch, he was holding a balloon. In another, a cane. In another, something that looked a lot like a belt. I took photos of every single page. I didn't know what to do with them. I just knew I couldn't let them sit in a box anymore. That night, I sat down with Sophie's little brother Daniel. He was only 8. I'd been trying to shield him from everything. But he looked at me with those big, honest eyes and said, Mom, did someone make Sophie sad? My heart broke. What makes you ask that, honey? Because she used to tell me not to answer the door when the red car stopped. Even if they said it was someone nice. I froze. What do you mean they? He shrugged. She said if a man ever smiled too much or gave you candy when you didn't want it, you tell me right away. She told you that? He nodded. She said if it ever happened, she'd be there like a superhero. Like the ones she draws. I hugged him tighter than I ever had. Because even after everything, Sophie had tried to protect her brother. She knew more than we did. And maybe she tried to warn us. I wasn't ready to go to the police again. They'd already dismissed me once. But I needed someone else to look at these drawings. Someone who could read between the lines. So I went back to the woman from the fair. She laid the pictures out slowly. Her fingers brushed across the lines, the symbols, the faces. She didn't say a word at first. Just nodded once. Then she looked up. You were right not to ignore this, she said. She was never alone. Not in those last moments. Someone watched her walk away that night. Someone with every intention of following. I asked her what I should do now. She stared at Sophie's drawing of the man in the red car and said, Tell her story. Loudly. And don't stop until someone listens. Something shifted after that second visit to the psychic. It wasn't just her words, it was the way she didn't say certain things. She kept looking at one of Sophie's drawings in particular. A girl standing in front of a mirror, with a shadow standing inside the reflection. Behind the glass. Watching. Smiling. She used mirrors a lot in her stories, I told her. She said they were gateways. Portals to the truth. The woman nodded. She knew what she was doing. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat in Sophie's room, surrounded by her notebooks and pens, trying to feel her presence. And that's when I noticed something I hadn't before. Her full-length mirror, the one she used to decorate with flower stickers and marker doodles, had a line of tiny tape marks at the top edge. Like she'd once stuck a photo there, or maybe a note. Something she didn't want to forget. But it was gone. Except one piece of tape still clung to the frame. And on it, written in the tiniest purple pen letters, were 4 words. He smiles too much. I just stared at it for the longest time. Not because it confirmed my fears, but because it was so deliberate. It wasn't a casual note. It was a warning left in the place where she stared at herself every morning. A place where she couldn't avoid seeing it. I felt cold all over. There was only one person she had drawn that exact smile on. The one she called Mr. Redcar. I knew I couldn't sit with this anymore. The next morning I called my friend Kara. She works as a youth counselor in a neighboring district and had helped run local workshops for girls on personal safety and confidence building. I told her everything. The symbols. The notes. The drawing. The name. When I said Alex RC, she went quiet. You're not the first mom who's mentioned him, she finally said. My heart stopped. What do you mean? She told me carefully that there had been previous concerns. Nothing proven. Nothing official. But enough that his name had come up more than once in quiet conversations among parents. Friendly guy to helpful, knows where the kids hang out. No one had filed a complaint. Because no one had proof. But I had drawings. I had messages. I had a name. Was that not something? Kara offered to help me bring it to a private investigator, someone she trusted. Someone who specialized in difficult-to-prove cases involving minors. Someone who understood how to spot patterns when systems didn't. We set up a meeting for the following week. In the meantime, I tried to keep things normal at home. As normal as they could be when your world's cracked open and your child's voice only exists in memories. Daniel had started sleeping with one of Sophie's sketchbooks. I didn't stop him. One night, he looked up at me and said, "She still talks to me." I smiled. "In dreams?" He nodded. "She says she's proud of me. And she wants me to draw too. She says I'm good." "You are good," I told him. Then he whispered something I still think about every day. She told me not to go near the red car. That was when I knew this wasn't just memory. This was something Sophie had repeated. Something she had tried to teach him. Something she wanted to protect him from. I cried in the hallway that night. Quietly. So he wouldn't hear. Then I got a call. From someone I hadn't expected. Sophie's old art teacher, Mrs. Hanley. She had been going through student portfolios to prepare for the fall showcase and came across one Sophie had submitted weeks before but never turned in officially. She said something about it gave her chills. It's a story, she told me. A comic. But it's not fun. It's not like her usual ones. It feels like a message. She scanned it and sent it to me. It was 5 pages. No words. Just images. Page 1, a girl walks home at sunset. Page 2, a red car parks near the sidewalk. Page 3, the car door opens. A smiling man gestures. Page 4, the girl hesitates. Looks behind her. No one is there. Page 5, the mirror. Just the mirror. With the girl inside it. And the man behind her. I stared at that last page for hours. Because now I understood what she'd been trying to tell me all along. She didn't want to say his name. She wanted to draw the truth. And she trusted me to find it. I printed copies of the comic and brought them to the meeting with Kara and the investigator. He listened carefully. Took notes. Looked through the files. When he reached the tape with the purple writing, he paused and said, "I've seen that handwriting before." That's when I realized we were closer than I ever imagined. The investigator's words hit me like a silent siren. I've seen that handwriting before. I leaned forward trying to stay calm. Where? He opened his notebook, flipping through past case logs. 3 years ago, we looked into an unrelated incident. A young girl, different town, different family, but something about the note she left was hauntingly similar. My chest tightened. You think it's the same person? I think it's possible, he said carefully. Too many details line up to ignore. We went through the artwork together again. Every page Sophie had drawn. Every word she'd scribbled on sticky notes and corners of paper. None of them said what happened directly, but together they formed a pattern. A man. A vehicle. Trust betrayed. The hardest part wasn't that I suspected someone. It's that I was starting to realize I may have met him before. He wasn't some shadowy stranger. He was present. Known. Possibly even welcomed. That night I went through every photo I had from Sophie's school events. Talent shows. Art club meetups. Community gatherings. And then I saw him. Far in the background of a picture from a charity run. Red baseball cap. Hands in his jacket. Smiling at the kids in line for snacks. I zoomed in. Red car parked behind him. License plate partially visible. I emailed it to the investigator. 5 minutes later he called. That's him. That's the same Alex RC. I felt sick. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was numb. Cold. Like the world had narrowed into a single question. How close had he gotten without us seeing? Later that week, the investigator connected a few more dots. Apparently, Alex had volunteered at several events across nearby towns. No criminal record. No complaints filed. But always the same patterns. Approachable, overly friendly, and around children a lot. I took a breath. What happens now? He looked at me with steady eyes. Now we keep pushing. Because what you have, the art, the notes, the warning signs, it may not be enough on paper. But it is enough to keep going. He said something I'll never forget. Predators often hide behind smiles. Survivors leave trails. Your daughter left one. And you followed it. That night, I opened Sophie's sketchpad one last time. There was a blank page at the end, completely untouched, except for 3 words in the bottom corner. Written in that same purple ink. Mom, don't stop. And I won't. I walked into that police station holding a folder filled with drawings, timelines, screenshots, and a printed photo of a man half smiling in the background of a school event. I thought it would be enough. The officer at the front desk was kind but cautious. She listened patiently as I explained what I'd found. Sophie's notes, her sketches, the red car, the timeline, the name. She looked through everything. Nodded often. Jotted down a few notes. And then she said something I didn't expect. I believe you. But it's not that simple. She explained how cases like this work. How evidence needs to meet certain legal thresholds. How suspicions, even deeply rooted ones, don't always translate into action without concrete proof. A recording. Confession. A witness. Physical evidence tying someone directly to a crime. I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. But what about the drawing? I asked. Her words? The tape on the mirror. They matter, she said. They help build a picture. But they're not a smoking gun. I left with a case number. A reference. And a familiar ache in my chest. The same ache I'd felt the night Sophie didn't come home. When I got to the car, I sat in silence for a long time. The world felt quiet. Too quiet. Like it had no room for a mother who didn't bring proof in a box. Only a child's voice wrapped in color and metaphor. That night I almost gave up. Until I saw Daniel curled up on the couch, asleep with Sophie's hoodie tucked under his chin. He looked peaceful. Like he was dreaming of her. And then I remembered her last words in that notebook. Mom, don't stop. So I didn't. I went online. I found other parents, other families who had been in the same position, asking questions no one wanted to answer. I learned how to request public records, how to file community safety alerts, how to use social media to share parts of a story that needed light, not silence. Slowly, messages started to come in. From a girl in a neighboring town who said someone in a red car had followed her home once after youth group. From a teacher who remembered an Alex volunteering at an after-school art class and being just a little too friendly. From a mother who recognized his name from a carpool list and said she'd always felt uneasy around him. None of it was conclusive. But together, it painted a picture the system hadn't seen. A man who moved around often, changed jobs frequently, who smiled too much and stayed too long at places meant for children, who had never been caught, but had been noticed. And maybe that was how it started. Not with a trial. Not with a headline. But with a whisper. A voice that refused to stay quiet. Sophie's voice. A year ago, I was a mother planning school lunches and folding laundry next to a pile of sketchbooks. Now, I'm something else. A researcher. An advocate. A storyteller. A woman holding on to a promise whispered in purple ink. Don't stop. The case was never officially reopened. At least not in the way I had imagined. There was no dramatic courtroom twist. No late-night arrest. But something changed. Because people started to listen. After I shared Sophie's story online. Carefully, with respect, and without naming names, strangers reached out. Artists, parents, survivors. They told me how much her drawings reminded them of things they had lived through. Or things they'd buried. One woman said her daughter had drawn clouds with eyes in them for years, until she finally told her the man who watched her from the sky was real. Another mom said her son once sketched the same person over and over in the corner of his notebooks. She hadn't realized it was his school bus driver. There were stories everywhere. Quiet ones. Brave ones. And suddenly, Sophie's voice wasn't alone. A reporter from a local paper contacted me after seeing the artwork and timeline I had posted. She asked if I would be willing to talk anonymously. I agreed. The piece ran a week later with the headline, "When Drawings Speak Louder Than Words." It didn't name Sophie. It didn't accuse anyone. But it raised a question. What if a child tells the truth through the only language they know, and we miss it? The response was overwhelming. People donated to the youth center in Sophie's honor. Others offered to start after-school programs focused on emotional expression through art. A local teacher created a Draw What You Feel initiative, encouraging kids to speak through their stories, not just their words. And Daniel, he started drawing too. First just stick figures, then colors, then full scenes. Last week he handed me a picture. It was Sophie flying above him like a superhero, holding a big red crayon in one hand and a heart in the other. She's not gone, he said. She's just drawing from somewhere else now. I couldn't speak. I just hugged him. 'Cause he was right. Sophie may not be here physically, but she's in every brushstroke, every memory, every brave parent who chooses to listen. Really listen. To what a child is trying to say when they don't have the words. I don't know if we'll ever see justice in a courtroom, but justice is more than punishment. Justice is protecting the next child. Justice is believing early. Justice is refusing to look away. If Sophie's story made you feel something, if it reminded you to look closer, listen deeper and hold space for the quiet ways kids speak, then she's still here. Still teaching. Still warning. Still shining. This was for her.